Monday, August 18th, 2025. In the Board of Supervisors, Chickasaw County, call this meeting to convene. Roll call, all members are present along with Board Secretary Sheila Shackleton. Is there a motion to approve today's agenda as presented?
Second.
Motion by Travis, second by Steve to approve the agenda. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Approve the minutes from August 11th.
Jeff, can I see a correction?
Do you see a correction?
Yeah, on the claims, I abstained due to conflict.
The claims here.
We'll make that change.
I'll move to approve with that change.
Is there a second?
Sorry.
Motion by Isaac, second by Scott to approve the minutes from August 11th with that change noted on the claims. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. Approve the minutes from August 12th, Tuesday.
Make a motion to approve the minutes for August 12th, 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Steve, second by Isaac to approve the minutes from August 12th. That was at 2 p.m. Any discussion? If not, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion carried. I think we can get this one done. Discuss the generator and automatic transfer switch for the EMS building. I did reach out to the director. He can't be with us today due to the rain. I asked him the question, are you okay to go ahead with the generator and potentially look into the AC next spring? He says, sounds fine. So that was his discussion with me last week, seeing that there was prices from $11,000 to $16,000 for the generator. There is $50,000 in a line item for equipment. I think we can do both, not knowing until we get the bids back for the AC, but go out for an RFP sometime in November, December, if that is a truly need for that garage area. Anybody else have any? You guys all got a copy of the bids?
Yeah, I talked to some of the EMS people and they really thought it was an unneeded spend at this time. There's no power, they can pull this rope on the doors and get them open. With the reliability of the New Hampton power, I just don't think it's necessary spend.
No concern with the medicine that's there and the 24-hour living? Did they have any concern with that?
They didn't voice any opinion on if that was necessary.
I mean, that's what I've been hearing through meetings and stuff, that there's no plan for medication spoilage to somebody actually living there 24/7. So. Anybody else have a different opinion, or is there a motion? Or?
I think if we have spoilage of the medication, it's probably gonna cost us more than 11,000 if we were to lose it all.
Yeah, but the AC's been a bigger issue. It sounds like it's been over 90 degrees in that equipment part of the shed this summer. Like I say that we just don't have power outages in New Hampton to speak of.
One of them was cord, and the other three were Generac.
I believe so, yes. They're all 24 KW though.
Okay.
We changed the RFP at the last second to equivalent, the brand name.
Who had what on there?
I don't have a bid in front of me.
That's good, that we did that.
There's a
Yeah,
price.
but I mean, which one had the core?
I think it was New Hampton, I think it's New Hampton Electric.
Okay.
New Hampton Electric has coal. Which is the highest one. Any other discussion?
I'll make a motion to accept EH Electric's bid of $11,833.26.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Motion by Travis, second by Isaac, to award the generator transfer switch for the EMS building to the contractor EH Electric in the amount of $11,833.26. Any other discussion? If not, roll call. Travis. Isaac. Steve.
Nay.
Scott. Jake, aye. Motion is carried 4-1. Public comment. There's a request from Joan Cano.
Maybe she wants a special.
Do you want to talk about this or in the 24-25 budget?
There's, the comment I want to make is, last week there was a comment made by, for the secondary road, paying their share of the buildings to come up with the liability insurance. And the general fund, so the cities would be paying all that. Isn't the general fund consists of rural and urban taxpayers? And according to the 2020 census, township is about 41%, and the towns is 59%. And I believe one of the outbuildings for secondary road is in the city of Ionia. So shouldn't it come out of the general instead of our secondary road fund? Should be continue being paid out of the general fund for all county property?
Technically, you got Alta Vista, New Hampton, Ionia, Fredericksburg. I think Lawler is outside of city limits. But yeah,
I don't think that was our concern. The concern, Joan, was the secondary road department has those buildings wherever they're at. The secondary road fund should be paying for their property insurance.
Well, then I'm just saying that the workers' comp, everything should be paid according to my department.
They are. They
Well,
are.
they reimburse them, but I don't think where's your workers' comp being paid on?
GS and then secondary roads and the
Who
assessor,
else reimburses there? I assume I don't know if it's
The
separate.
assessor, the,
EMS has their
Jeff
own,
Does
does.
Jeff or don't they have their own policy?
they have
for
their own
workers' comp?
policy.
So why don't those individuals have their own policy, then you wouldn't have to be working with it then? Then anything out of GD or GS could be accordingly, and you could put a line item into their budgets accordingly, and then you know exactly what money is being spent.
That's exactly what we're trying to do with the transfer back. The auditor's gonna submit a bill for those specialty claims, and then it's gonna backfill into GS
But if
from your department.
but the comment was made that the cities wouldn't be paying for it out of town, but that's what I basically.
Yeah,
That comment was mistaken, because the general fund consists of both rural and urban taxpayers.
oh, we know that.
Well, yeah, it does, but just because a county building is for the secondary roads is in a city, the county secondary roads is not doing anything in that city except for maybe storing a piece of equipment. They're not plowing the streets or putting gravel down or anything in town. So why should the citizens of that town pay for the insurance of that building? Shouldn't it just be the rural?
Yes.
But I'm just saying, the general fund consists of everybody's,
We
no
know that.
matter what. And the cities have their own budget to pay for their own plowing and stuff. You're storing it into their cities.
Yeah, this is property insurance.
Yes.
Sure.
So the workers' comp, the salaries for general basic and general supplemental aren't the workers' comp, the workers' comp salaries mostly out of GB, not GS.
The salaries are.
Salaries out of GB.
So why are we paying it out of GS then?
Because the law allows you to do that once GB runs out of money.
When we haven't run out of money, it doesn't seem like we're balances.
Well, if we didn't run out of money, then I don't know why we are paying any levy on GS then.
That's what, you can,
So,
but you are, what I'm saying is.
devil's advocate, Joan.
You are, and that we, all those years prior to that, and I understand you can manipulate wherever you wanna put, wherever you wanna pay this stuff out, but you're paying stuff that is really rural out of GB, like weeds, and that was always rural, but you can pay that out of GB.
That's because our weed commissioner, Joan, we can debate this all day long.
Yeah.
Our weed commissioner was doing work inside the cities. So GB, GS will take care of that now in the future.
But it's in the Iowa code section, it is under our rural services basic.
So then I guess we gotta tell the director not to talk to any constituent that lives in the city with a weed issue if we're gonna pay it out of RSP only.
But I'm just saying, don't
We
they
can have
have
that
to spray? Do they have to spray in the cities? Do they spray for
I have
mosquitoes
no
or
idea what
whatever
the
it
city
is?
does. I'm not in charge of the city council. Anything else, Joan?
Just the beginning, thank you.
Thank you. Discuss TIF projects urban renewal plan. I put this back on for a couple of reasons. We directed Taylors and Cooney to do a scope of work to put that B22 resurfacing into the urban renewal plan. The documents were prepared on Friday. You guys can see this if you have not seen. It's just to change the urban renewal plan and authorize a chair signature on the scope of work. And then there's a questionnaire to be answered. Second thing is we got the answers from Homeland Energy that Steve asked. I think it's fair enough to share those answers. How many Homeland units are owned by Chickasaw County residents? The response came back at 61% of our units are owned by Chickasaw County residents. Second question was how much of the corn Homeland purchases is from Chickasaw County? 7 to 20% of our annual corn purchase comes from Chickasaw County. This varies from year to year based on local markets. Chickasaw County grows about 27 to 28 million bushels of corn per year. That is about 40% of our annual grind. Ray did put together the industrial exemption.
Yeah, the 5-year partial industrial exemption.
So if the value comes back, and this still needs to be done, you need to go visit the site and put value on the addition, 6 million roughly. So the first year collected, assessed in 26, collected in 27, 28,
27, 28.
would be about 22,905 roughly of TIF dollars that we have in our urban renewal plan. And then the second assess in 27 would be that project, 6 mil, and the additional 4 mil that they're talking about would bring in roughly 51,919 in property tax TIF. They go 25%, 15% up until it hits 100%.
It has 15% each year, until it reaches 100%. Start out 25%.
Any questions of those things that? So I guess, is there a motion to amend the urban renewal plan? Sorry, not to amend it. What is it called, the scope of work or the
There is the
engagement letter, scope of engagement from Taylors and Cooney to perform and to amend, start the process to amend the urban renewal plan. And the only thing that we want to amend is the project east of Alta Vista to be included in the urban renewal plan. Anything else? Do you guys have any questions of the research that was all done last week?
I'll make a motion to approve the letter of engagement with Taylors and Cooney with chair signature.
Second.
Motion by Scott, second by Steve, to authorize chair signature on the letter of engagement with Ayers and Cooney to add legal description and language to the urban renewal plan. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, anybody opposed? Motion is carried. Anything else on that you guys need or want us to do? Travis, like I said, is working on the numbers to not to exceed. He'll present sometime, I think, in the end of August or beginning of September. All right, moving on then. Engineer Roman Lansing, agenda item. Good morning, Roman.
Morning, all.
Acknowledge a vacancy for mechanic position in the secondary roads department.
Yeah, so we got a vacancy in the position of mechanic, looking to approve, hiring, fill that position.
All right, there's two separate motions, so is there a motion to acknowledge a vacancy for mechanic position in the secondary roads department?
So move.
Second. Was that Isaac?
Yes.
Sorry. Motion by Travis, second by Isaac, to approve the vacancy in the mechanical position in the secondary roads department. Any discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, anybody opposed? Motion carried. Discuss and approve the engineer to fill the vacant position.
I'll move. Second.
Motion by Isaac, second by Steve, to allow the engineer to fill the vacant position. You gonna try to do this within, or you gonna do it publicly first? Or-
Publicly.
Any other discussion? If not, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye, anybody opposed? Motion carried. Department update.
To start off, as everyone knows, we've got major flooding going on right now. Just want to remind the public to not travel through flooded roadways. Everybody's out right now. I'm sure we're gonna run out of signs, so just please keep your head on your shoulders, look where you're going, slow down, turn around. I know we even got pavements that are getting overtopped right now, B22 east of Jericho, so. Last week was pretty typical though, mowing, blading, spot rock, and crossroad culvert replacements. Bridge 1981 replacement project, we did get pile driving completed at the south abutments. Pretty much all our construction projects will be on hold till the water goes down, so we did have a lot of design development work. We reseeded the bridge down towards Fredericksburg, which I'm guessing will have to be done again now that we just got 6 to an unknown amount inch of rain in the evening. So again, just want to remind the public, be safe, be careful. But yeah, that's a pretty typical department update. I don't know if you guys got questions on anything specific, but we're kind of in flood mode right now.
I agree. Unforeseen. Any questions for the engineer? Thank you. Discuss partial self-funding with IJCP Health Insurance, Denise Ballard. I'm gonna give her a call. She's on the road this morning. You guys all have a copy of the package she did on Friday. It's 5 pages long. We'll get her on the phone here. Denise, can you hear me?
I can.
Can you guys really hear, or you want to switch phones? Can you speak up a little bit if you start talking, Denise? Would that be great?
You bet.
All right, it's all the way down. So I visited with Denise about a week and a half ago when we got our end of May, second year, yeah. So I saw the trust fund, the partial self-fund down to $99,000. Remember, we changed the alternate plan effective July 1st to have more risk in the county PSF. We went to 7,000 county risk from 5350, and then family, we went 14,000 risk to 10,000, from 10,007 to 14. So our exposure is a little bit higher. I guess Denise, I'll let you talk, if you could please, of where you think most counties or cities are at with PSF, and is it something to look into now, maybe adding some money into the PSF, or make some changes with the administration side of it?
Sure. Yeah, so, that was a correct statement, starting July 1, so you just started your new plan year. We did, take on additional risk at the county level, meaning that the well-marked limits that we're buying are higher than they were in the prior year. So I don't know if everybody has the material that I sent over, but in the risk review that I sent over, you can see that the overall risk to the county went from $615,250 to $805,000. So pretty significant change in risk. We're funding that risk 17.21% of utilization. So that means we're setting aside, we're collecting through premium $138,570. So we're collecting that $138,000 to cover this plan year's claims. That's 17% of your worst case scenario. Most counties have their partial self-funding set around 20%. So you're below what I would recommend. But we're working our way back. You know, we did increase the liability, but we also increased the funding. So last year we were only funding, about 15.85% of the risk. So while we did increase the risk, we also increased the percent of coverage relative to exposure. So I feel that we're moving in the right direction. If you have a plan year this year identical to the plan year you had last year, you'll use 100% of that money. 100% of that $138,000 that we're setting aside through that premium collection, you're going to use. Because last year, in your just recent prior year that closed, your claims finished up at $139,000. One of the things that's a little tricky with your group is finding out what's your new normal relative to claims utilization. So because you had a census change in the middle of your, in the middle of plan year, not this most recent, but the one prior, we're still trying to get our heads around what your average claims will look like with that new population. So, we're going to continue to monitor that, and our risk assessment that data comes through will be shared with the Board of Supervisors. So I'm going to stop there. Any questions so far?
No, I don't think so, Denise. That you just explained the first sheet, and the board all has this copy, so.
Okay. Yeah, so if you see on that first sheet, I told you that your claims are averaging 102,000, almost 103,000 on average over the last 5 years. But we had a change in census in that 5 years. So again, as you look at those claims by year, your most recent plan year that just ended, you used 139,000. 2023-24, you were at 112. That was partial. That $112,000 year was partially the lower census participation, and then the plan changed mid-year. Then you go back and you look at the 3 years prior, you're at 76, almost 77,000. 112 is where you peaked, and then 73, almost 74,000 the year prior. So while your average claims utilization is 103,000 over 5 years, I really don't want to lose sight of that 139,000 that just closed. We again keep our eye on what the new normal looks like. So that will kind of lead us to, well, outside of claims, what else is drawing from the reserve, the partial self-fund reserve? You do have some administrative expenses that are coming out of the reserve, that they have some, not a lot, but some impact in 2024, 25, the plan year that just ended. Almost $6,000 of your reserve was depleted to pay administrative expenses. Those are listed on that second page there, everything from billing administration, the basic life insurance premium, COBRA administration, which includes early retirees. And then you've got two line items for flex that were, of course, existed in the prior plan year, but because you terminated your flex agreement, won't be a cost item for your current plan year. So I anticipate those administration charges, getting down to $3,800 as opposed to closer to $6,000 in the prior year. The sole reason that those administrative expenses were being pulled out of the partial self-fund reserve is because many years ago, when you were self-funded, you created a reserve. That reserve was an internal account monitored by the auditor's office and the board of supervisors. That reserve had to be used on benefit-related expenses. So in order to spend down that old reserve, we were using that old self-funded reserve money to pay some of these admin expenses. Well, that account has long been depleted. There are no more self-funded reserves. So we just continue to take that admin expense, but now we're taking it out of the partial self-fund reserve. And with your plan running skinny, I would recommend the board consider stopping that and having that paid by, not out of the partial self-fund reserve, but just as a line item expense to the EDS bill, and then that expense would be paid entirely by the county. That's how all other IGHCP groups do it. Questions there?
I don't have any. Does anybody else? All right, moving on to page 3, Denise.
Yeah, so page 3, I just wanted to give you a quick update. There's really nothing new added to this page. Everything's been updated to reflect the close of your plan year, but no real new data there. The biggest reason I added them to the packet is as we're having these partial self-fund reserve conversations, how much money do we want to have in the reserve? I thought this page would be a good visual. I highlighted the column all the way to the right so you can see the changes in your reserve over time.
All right, thank you. Page 4.
You bet. Page 4 and page 5 are just your well-marked claims by month. So you're just going to see your 2024 closed out. And then you're going to see where we're at so far in 2025 relative to claims. I wanted to end on this note because you guys are having another great year. Your well-marked claims continue to trend down. So from that perspective, from the healthiness of your plan, the healthiness of your people, we're kind of seen as the pendulum swings that go back to your corner. So good news.
Yep, no, that wraps up it all. If we spend more than 138 minus the 4,000 roughly in admin, that means IGHCP needs to be below that 132. Otherwise, the trust fund PSF will be funding the claims.
Correct.
So,
Again, I would love to see you get that funding back up to 19 to 20% of risk. We're making headway. The IGHCP plan is running well. We still have 2 more months that we have to get through before I start negotiating your renewal. I'm hopeful, and I'm very optimistic that we're gonna have another great renewal at the Walmart level. And if that occurs, that's gonna give Chickasaw County an opportunity to take another year where you don't have to sweat that Walmart renewal, and you can really focus on building your partial self-fund. So, that's my hope, and again, I feel pretty optimistic about it. But I guess, I'm not trying to paint a negative forecast, I just wanted you all to understand where you're at today, where your plan's at today, and kind of the fluidity of that over the next 12 months.
what balance do you think should be in the PSF? I mean, what's a good cushion that you see?
The minimum, yeah, so that is kind of a loaded question, Jake. I'm gonna answer it in 2 ways. First of all, we really never wanna see less than 4 months your average claims in that reserve. If you take your average claims, 139,000, or you take last year's claims, 139,000 divided by 12 times 4. I'm driving and I can't do that in my head.
47,000.
Yeah, so that's kind of like bare minimum. That allows us to keep your plan floating without claims being held. That allows us to pay your providers timely. That is just the absolute bare minimum. It's 4 months. Anything over that allows me to leverage that renewal. So, again, I'm very optimistic about the healthiness of IGHCP. I do think that our plan's running well and we're gonna have another low renewal. However, ultimately, the claims drive the premium. So as sure as I say that, I don't have control over that. Something could happen that changes that forecast. But if, let's say, for example, the wheels fall off the plan and we got a 7% increase. Well, increasing your Wellmark line item, that Wellmark premium to you, increasing that by 7% would be catastrophic. That's such a huge number to your Wellmark plan and premium. So if I have a healthy partial self-fund reserve, we can use some of that money to offset that Wellmark renewal and bring that down to maybe something that's at least digestible. Maybe we can get that 7% down to 4 or 5% if I have a partial self-fund reserve that I can leverage. But if you don't have any money, and we have to worry about funding your self-funded reserve, your self-funded plan, and fighting off a big renewal from Walmart, that's where we really get into trouble. And that's what we really have to avoid.
Got it. If it gets below, say, whatever the board thinks is a non-safe area, can you just add money from the county's cash reserves?
Yes, that's a good question. And we have groups that do that. We have groups that they fund their partial self-fund account, 3 times a year. So they'll put in just a direct contribution to the reserve. So if you said that if we never want our reserve to get below 100,000, and in 3 months you saw that it was at 75, you could reach out and make a $25,000 deposit straight to your reserve, and that'll be a line item and noted on your EBS.
Yeah, no, thanks for all that information. I think we just need to watch it and see what, our employees and spouses and dependents, I guess we'll put it that way, is gonna do the next quarter.
Yes, and I do I review your claims every single month. So, I'm watching it, and if there's something that is alerting me, I'll alert you.
Sounds good. Any board member or auditor have any questions? I think, thanks Denise for the refresher of how this PSF works, and, I guess drive safe.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you. Let me know if you need anything.
All right, thanks.
Bye-bye.
You guys got any questions, or? I did reach out to Travis a couple weeks ago about this. He's on the committee, not trying to step anybody's toes, but I think, you felt the same way of this PSF getting a little lower than normal. And we had a pretty high claims last year. So. All right, if there's nothing else on that, to discuss fiscal year 24-25 budget results. Sheila did a 2-page document of our major funds, general basic, GS, the ARPA, EMS, rural service, and the secondary road fund. She did also prepare a bigger sheet of the department itself, of what they gave back, what was budgeted, what was actual spent for revenue and expenditures. Then remember the one standalone that she inquired from the departments, asked department heads how much from their budgets are coming back, and I would say, for the record, this was done in February, March. You guys all know we had these numbers during budget work session. The sheriff quoting 100,000, attorney 50, the recorder 12, public health 67. General services 51 department was gonna get back 104 out of GB and 20,000 out of GS. Auditor was getting back 90,000 in GS, and recorder, I believe 90,000, if those numbers are correct.
Oh, no, no.
No, none of those,
No, we were just looking at
the first line,
we were looking at the, insurances.
oh, general supplemental,
Yeah, and that's.
liability toward,
Yeah, so
you're right,
that's why.
you're right, they're over there.
Yeah.
So I guess, is there any board member has any questions of where we were, where we're at? Remember, we had that discussion last budget work session in 23-24 that we were gonna do a $550,000 transfer from GB to GS. We did do the GS, the 300,000, but then at the end, we gave it back to general basic. So pretty much that's an in and out, in and out. A couple reasons I see of last fiscal year, July 1st, we had 2.3 roughly in the ending fund balance. And then we went through a whole year of doing business and it grew to 2.9. Some of those reasons is the departments did not spend all their budget, and some of the department's revenue was a lot higher than expected or what we were giving as a revenue guarantee. Anything else, Sheila, that I'm missing, or Steve, do you have any questions or concerns?
This, that you gave us here is generalized with GB, GS, ARPA. But as far as the departments, like, what exactly sheriff did that,
That came back to this one, and it's over on the differences on the side, the big spreadsheet.
So the big spreadsheet,
right,
so
so.
difference.
Yeah, so that shows what they gave back.
Supervisors gave back 13,441.
Yep,
Yes.
and then I gave back 45,000. And the supervisors and I didn't even have anything down, but then things changed in my office and I didn't spend as much as I thought I was going to.
So total given back was $942,000.
And when we asked the departments, they were thinking, and then when we went through the books, we were thinking 443,000 was gonna come back. So we got more, just shy of 500,000 back more than what we got in departments. And then we got $327,000 more in revenue through the interest.
Well, and other things though, not just interest.
Yeah, and everything else too, yeah.
Revenue from the treasurer to a lot of those departments, like the Heritage Fund gave back 46.
And then on the revenue too, with, the Heritage, we had that flood. So then they gave us a check that we weren't counting on, so it comes in as revenue, so, that inflates the revenue too, saying that we got more in, but all it did is put us back to where we started. So, I mean.
So then you got revenue side for public health was 34,779, under what they said. And then just note, when the email was sent out for public health, environmental health, whatever combined, they were gonna give back 67. Public health gave back only 54 from their budget. All these numbers are moving every single minute of the county business days. These numbers are in and out.
I guess my comment from last week was that when we mentioned it at the beginning of the fiscal year, that these numbers were not final. And so these are finalized numbers so that they can see them.
But on any given day of a business, things come up, health insurance, floods, buildings. Talking to, and over here in some other counties, they have some reserves of 40-50% for those what if days that come up. You guys can understand it's gonna be hard to get FEMA anymore, in my opinion. All these floods, that happened yesterday, today, is gonna be taken care of out of the RSB fund or the secondary road fund. Joan, you got any questions?
In regard to the public health, remember at the beginning of the budget appropriations at 24-25, we estimated 98,300, but we had it lowered, but she told us at the time frame that we would have to up our revenue, which we did, and that's when we came up with the 898,300. And then we gave you an estimate of 750,000 bringing back. I believe at the time when you asked the department head, I don't know what happened to that, but it didn't change anything. You didn't change the down to the 750,000, right? It don't look like you did that. So yes, we were in general basic, the 34,779.72 difference. Yes, we were in the red, but also, same thing with our environmental health, then we are getting our grants by quarters. So, and I think you got a copy of that, we're a quarter ending of June 30th, so then we were in the black. And also, at the end of that year, we had 3 people that we had to let go. So we lost revenue of the homemakers and the nurses, that we had 2 homemakers and staff. But we had the payout of also that we gave, the decision of the board, so that is why that decrease of giving back in that total department.
Joan, can you clarify what board gave the payout?
The board gave, years of service for every year, $500, and we had enough money to do that, that's why we reduced to $67,000 also. And then also we did bring in the revenue for that whole month. of the going out to our clients, because we have reduced clients now that we have to serve.
But that revenue would have showed up in July as a decrease, not June.
The June, if you did it by month, but the quarter is done by quarter, so the quarter payment of that didn't come in until July, so it would have been accrued, so, but you're looking at cash basis.
We are, and we wouldn't see those numbers anyway.
That's correct.
So-
And then that's why also with the environmental health, we paid him out on vacation hours that we really didn't have to because we changed his position from full-time to part-time, 30 hours. So there's, that also was part of it, so, and then of course your health insurance is paid out a month ahead, so we did what we had to do. But is your figures broken down to the taxpayers per fund by departments? Or within your general basic, for instance, all your departments in general basic, do you have that listed so the understanding of the taxpayer can understand what the cost base was, there a personal they spent minus the revenue broken into, and plus all your credits?
I did mine based with general basic and general supplement because they were,
It's, the taxpayers are paying by fund. Am I
but
correct?
I do have it broke down this way by fund. For showing what revenues came in and what transfers came in and what expenditures. I did that by fund.
Well, I'm looking at the total taxpayer, but it costs the taxpayer per fund, per department to run that in each fund. So I'm saying at the end, I did this myself. I got information from the auditor's office, Department of Management, whatever else I could get my hands on, pull cash, that's all public record. And what I did was, did the same thing as you did, is break down the expenditures and revenue by department within that department, what everything was part of, transfers in and out, and I come up with the tax dollars. What is actually the taxpayers are paying, that department is paying in the fund. Have you done that?
I broke it down as,
So
like I said,
I'm just saying, so the taxpayer understands.
not by department, by revenues and expenditures for one.
That's
And the other one was by department
the total.
for GS and general basic. Because when we did the budgeting budgeting, everything was done by GB and GS.
But that's the general fund, but the taxpayer, your separate tax dollars.
And I see where you're coming from, yeah.
The
I do.
taxpayer is general basic, general supplemental, and RSB. So the taxpayer needs to know what is actually being spent out of GB, what is actually being spent, what are we actually paying the taxpayers of that total?
Right, and that's where I put the fund balances together and what actually came out as revenues and what actually came out as expenditures.
Well, I went further than that.
I know, and I'm sorry.
But that's, I'm not saying that's your sorry, whatever it is, but I'm saying the true picture would be, what is the tax dollars, the taxpayer, as yourself, in GB or GS, what is being paid out there, like your department's in, let's say, general supplemental. What is actually being paid out there, and how much of that, with your revenue coming in, is actual tax dollars? What percent, I didn't go to percentages. And I even went further than that, I went to the last 5 years of your annual report. And I figured out where it started out with your biggest beginning fund balance. Where you jumped from, where the increases came from, Jake,
Yes,
for instance, and where it jumped in levy rates. I hadn't gone further than that. I don't know if you did that or not, but that's a good comparison to analyze where your money is, the bigger balances are. And your annual reports from balance. That's what I did as a taxpayer. Because I myself is just like a checkbook. I want to know where my money is going.
Right.
And how it's being spent. So how are you gonna explain this to a taxpayer? And then what are your options on your end game? Because I know your valuations have gone up over $100 million in the last 5 years. Valuation stuff. What is your end game?
end game for what?
For your departments, for instance, like the public health, we got cut this year of the $300-some thousand, and we're trying to get back, so we had to cut services there. So what is your end game to us.
Yeah, I think my end game personally, myself, is not knowing what the state of Iowa is gonna do to us. Right?
But you also got letters for environmental health, I believe, from the state too, for the grants.
Yeah, I'm reading that, I'm trying to research myself of, it seems like we're not the only county encountering counties who are reducing the budget line item and the effect to reduce their overall budget. But this leads to restrictions on providing well services. So we must not be the only county doing it, when it's plural. But there you go again, trying to run a county and trying to, what if the state of Iowa lawmakers is very tough on a day when I don't want to see this county bankrupt. So that's my end game,
But
right?
are supposed to be giving the services to the citizens too?
There's nowhere in that brown book that an essential service is home care, homemaker. Can you find it for me, Joan?
I understand that,
Okay,
but aren't they taxpayers too?
they are taxpayers. So at a given time, the state changes the rules after we certify the levy rates and certify the budget. Those are the information that I'm taking from our lawmakers of what their goal is to reduce property tax. So my concern is we have to stay on track of what we have to provide by law, compared to what we don't have to provide by law.
Even though the moneymaker is after taxes is collected in your taxes and credits, your biggest revenue is coming back to the county in general basic is your public health. It's over 800, you can see by what you brought in compared to other departments. And then we took the worst hit.
I can have other board members explain where they came up with that.
So I'm just saying, if you're gonna reduce the services, which you are, looks like you're doing, your end game is what then? Are you trying to get rid of public health then, or what is your end game in some of the departments? I know you can find efficiencies in other departments too, but what is your end game for just the public health and home care? You don't want to see that program, or?
No, they're still fully, I feel, getting over $1 million. They still have 11 staff members working, I believe, is that correct? You're on board health. We'll see what the cuts in the federal government, the state, Medicaid and Medicare are gonna do to that agency. Those are all moving numbers, moving facts.
So what about your other departments?
Those departments are required by law to have in the county.
Yes, but what about the staff?
Oh, some departments took some staff cuts.
I understand, but they're also trying to get higher budgets, and some of the budgets didn't reflect that, I'm saying.
I don't know any department has hired back that we cut in April, May. Right now, the things that were on our agenda today was to replace current staff for unforeseen circumstance that whatever happened.
Which was currently in the budget.
Correct.
Okay, so I'm saying now, we're trying to get 1.5 back. Is it possible that we can start hiring, because by the time you guys decide the budget amendment, we're gonna be down the road like October, November before we can find anybody? Is it possible that you can get permission to hit, so we can start hiring process to the department head Lisa? So that she can start looking and get it public health care. With what we requested back, plus the raise.
I personally would not agree to that, just for the simple fact that what if that budget amendment doesn't pass and you've already hired somebody?
What about the 3%?
3% for what?
The raises for the staff,
That was not under our leadership. That was under your leadership.
because we had another, the 384,000 cut. Where else were we supposed to cut except for not taking the raise or the staff? Otherwise, she did have to come in her staff member and get down to 10.
That was your call though. That's not our call. And I think sometimes other board members make it our issue, but that's not our issue. That was your issue to freeze the wages. I don't think we decided that. Any of us up here? Did we decide to freeze their wages?
It was our call, yes, because we were looking at other possibilities to say somebody else from being let go. But you still haven't answered me. The question is, how are you gonna present this with a normal taxpayer of these the differences and what, yes, are all moving parts from one day to another day. So at the end of the fiscal year, it is what it is.
They're also moving, Joan, where the value of your property to, some people pay 99% in TIF, they don't pay nothing in the GBGS. I guess have those people reach out to me and I will dissect what they need to know on their tax slip. I need to know their concern too, of how much they actually pay into the county.
So of those 300 residents of the TIF, how
That's
much
just an
did,
example.
yeah, that's what I'm saying. How much did we lose? Actually, I assume that was this 24-25 budget year that we did not gain that
So the
back.
city had the right to TIF it anyway. They found debt, they TIFed it. I don't think there was any errors made of, we always go back to that, but they're gonna take 100% now for many years to come, just to capture their tax incentive financing.
But my
I
question,
go back if you need to know the numbers, but they're gonna continue to check the box and take it all now.
so common taxpayers, I get that, how are you gonna explain what the balance of the growth to a common taxpayer in each fund, why it is and where, how it got to that point? Are we levying too much? The max is 350 in general base, are we levying too much in the other areas?
Yeah, we might be leveraging way too much in GS. But remember, this board changed health insurance in October. That made it go up to what, 195, I believe.
And that's when they implemented the 3% for GB, you know, the growth that all happened.
There's no play in that.
Yeah, so GS is only triggered once you go out of 350 out of GS, or GB, sorry. So, yeah, I think if we need to look at these numbers, and if we don't move it, the ending fund balance, I think GS will have to be decreased. Unless you guys want to keep.
That's not gonna help. Your biggest one is your GB, you got the 2.9 million now, and that jumped to 600,000, which of course is 250,000 is your revenue, and of course expenditures are less. But, that's still, what are your options to get that lower? What are your options, and even like GS, are there options for you to move stuff around? Because I know you have moved things around. Are you gonna move stuff back to where it could be taken out of?
It
Or,
can be.
or-
We've always talked about courthouse windows and everything.
where's that money gonna come from?
Well, you just said it. We got a nice ending fund balance out of GB, so it can come out of GB. There's always projects that I think have not been looked into yet. The infrastructure of this county will always be here a lot longer than I will be here. So I just think we need to look at some infrastructure if the state indeed reforms property tax.
But did you state though, Jake, that it was 46 your ending fund balance and usually 25% carryover?
Yeah, there's no rule anywhere. I know common auditors have 50%. So where's the rule at to have an ending fund balance? I think I heard from you many years that a 25% is good, but what if we go up to 80%? I mean, then we lower levy rates, or we do a project, or there's so many what ifs, Joan, you know it.
But like, I'm still, how you, like I said, how are you gonna explain to a common taxpayer the big balances? That is what you're gonna have to somebody doesn't know the county system or like the checkbooks or whatever it is, how many are the percentages of what is really being paid out of the current taxpayer dollars? How are you gonna explain those to a common person that, they wanna know? There's a lot of people that wanna know why the big balance.
My phone number's public, have them call me.
There's some that are, there are some that are not gonna call you Jake because there's people that feel like if they call some of these board members, they're gonna get retaliated against.
No, we can't do that.
What happens if the legislature decides this spring to say you can only grow your you can only grow
Is that a
your
fact?
revenue by 2%?
Exactly.
How is any county, any rural county gonna deal with that? When health insurance goes up at least 2%, and price of fuel, and the price of equipment, everything else goes up by 2%. How would we ever be able to balance the budget or to make a budget work without at least having some savings to transition us through that? If the legislature did that this spring, which was brought up last year and proposed.
And I really think highly, it potentially could be a law.
But we dealt with some of those in prior years too. We dealt with frozen-based years too. And we made it through.
Mentioned that you could still outvote it if you had a 4-to-1 vote. They're talking about 2% is 2%. There's no way around it.
So then how are you gonna fund your projects that you're gonna be doing then? Because you know your windows, for instance, is gonna cost you
That's exactly where,
multi-million dollars.
You gotta have that's why we gotta have the extra in there. That's why we gotta have the savings there.
Then you need to tell the taxpayer what your plans are. Maybe, like you said, you're gonna be doing windows, then put the money aside. That is what you need to tell the taxpayer, what you're saving up for.
So, I'm sorry, I missed the discussion, I was upstairs, but I just had one question, maybe it's already been addressed, so I need to ask it. Sheila, this sheet that you gave us, what's the projected deficit or surplus in this fiscal year?
This fiscal year, what do you mean? I guess I don't.
Correct.
with the
So
new
25,
budgets.
26, so what are we anticipating this year? Are we anticipating we're gonna draw down X amount, tens, $100,000 from GB and GS, or are we anticipating that it's gonna balance or have a surplus again?
Well, I'm thinking
That's
it's
the
gonna be
million-dollar
more
question.
balanced, yeah, because that's what we were shooting for.
Remember, we never had a balanced budget. Revenues and expenditures, right?
You projected $87,000 deficit last year.
Correct.
Yeah.
So what are you projecting this year, I guess?
You're gonna use the ending fund balance to recapture that. If everybody spends every penny of their budget, we have to use ending fund balance.
Agreed, and I think that's why that number's important for this discussion, because if you're projecting a $400,000 deficit, that changes the picture dramatically. So that's what I was asking last week, for what is this year's version of this sheet? What does it look, what are we projecting for this year?
That wasn't asked to do. We were asked to
Yeah, and I
do
can
ending
have
fund
one for
balance.
next week for you, so we have a more precise total.
373,000 short balance, if I remember right. Somewhere in there. You know, and with just the G, not taking into account the interest and all the rest of the little revenues that come in, you know, it looks to me like we're around $690,000, so we're gonna just more than balance. Of course, like Jake said, those numbers move constantly day to day, so especially on a day like today when it's raining, we don't know.
We asked everybody to tighten up their budgets a lot tighter than they've ever been, so I'm guessing they'll be spending a lot closer to what they had budgeted.
You took a lot of stuff out of some of the departments. I believe. Because some of the departments had to come back out and take out their, whatever they had, their, what you saw called fluff. But some of those departments are so close to the way it is. They're not gonna have fluff. So those are your questions, and you know that most of your departments are very frugal. They don't spend the money unless they have to. Are you in agreement with that?
I would agree with that, Joan, yes. Most of them.
So you know by 3 years' history, I assume is when you do your 3-year history, when the departments do their budgets, they look at their 3-year history and can estimate from there.
But the example, I think you guys all got an email, brakes on the environmental health pickup needs new brakes. So the director is requesting an adjustment for brakes. Hopefully they got the brakes installed because of safety issue. It's up to us to add more for an adjustment, or they have to live within their means. I noted it, so we will discuss that in the future when we do and if we do a budget amendment.
I think you also got one for fuel too, because he's going on a lot more now too.
I don't know if I got that email. I'll double check, but I know we did get one for the brakes for the pickup.
And then, of course, the grants that we asked for too, because that's, in order to spend the money, we have to to get the revenue back, we have to spend the money, so that grant money is, and she explained that to you thoroughly, and so the Department of Revenue.
Yeah.
The public health is the same way, you know, she has Lisa has done a 5-year program on public health for the future of what's happening down there too.
My last statement, Joan, and we can continue talking about this, but the issue is if the state's gonna mandate and try to micromanage us, which I think they're doing a good job of that right now, we have to go back to the code and say, this is all we can do. Some of those extra things that people are used to will have to change when we have to, in law, have to provide a county attorney, a county auditor, you know. And some people might think they're an essential service. I'm sorry, but they're not in the Brown Book. They're not in the state of Iowa code. So if they pull back the strings, we have to also. It's just what it is. You know, look what they recommend on their Department of Efficiencies. I'm not gonna go down that rabbit hole. But those are just ideas, and it just made social media blow up just for having a discussion. It wasn't law, it wasn't changed by law, it's just having a discussion. So, and we'll see what happens. And that's the thing, we do things in the beginning of January, February, March. They do things in April, May, June. That could go into effect July 1st. We're kind of late then to the game. Right? That's when a lot of law changes, is after we have everything certified and approved. I think that's what happened last year. There was a lot of talks on property tax reform, and I think there's gonna be a lot of talk continued, and I guess we'll see what they do.
Because that's what they want to do, is just get lower property taxes. And basically, once you get rid of the revenue sources, I'm just saying the highest one, once you get rid of that revenue, you're basically living off taxes and credits.
We should like to pull those back too.
Yeah, they're gonna pull those credits back even further.
So,
It's gonna be a burden to the taxpayers.
if we can. If they say we can only raise 2% tax asking,
How is that gonna affect, well, I know you're
I
gonna.
think Dave was talking about it a little bit ago.
How is that gonna affect
It's
the
just-
tips? They don't, the tips that the windmills have.
They have not, in my opinion, talked about it yet. There's some gossip out there, but to me, if you have an urban renewal plan in place, I think we heard that from our bond attorney, it's gonna be very hard for the state to come back and take that away. But they can try.
So is that gonna be like a debt service then?
I have no idea. There's a lot of counties at TIF and a lot of cities at TIF.
Well, I mean, on your form with the tip money that you're gonna borrow, where will that show up on there as a debt service?
There'll be a debt service and there'll be two funds. There'll be one for debt service and then one for the bond, proceeds that go in and show where we spend the money on it.
So the debt service, is everybody that be paying, or just the tip people?
The TIF,
Just
the
the-
Mid-America Wind Turbine Project, the urban renewal plan.
So then I'm just asking, how many more years do we have left on the radio project?
Is it 4?
4. We're collecting number 6.
So where are you gonna, well, I'm probably getting ahead of the game.
But that, Joan, that's the same question about the budget, right? We pay, what, 20,000 a year in rent
Yes,
to those tower sites.
on general, basic.
But look what the state did with 911 surcharge. They're giving money back, or not giving money to the 911 service directors.
Correct.
So when and how are we gonna build a tower someday? That might be a vision of general basic funds. You're up here when we did give 911 funds to build the anchor site. But we can continue to rent, or we can put our own tower in. You know, that's public safety. We all know how bad it was 6 years ago. Why do you think we went out for $4.5 million for public safety radios? So yeah, moving target every day, Joan, you know it. So I think I brought this up.
In the paper then, or this what I'm saying to the council, so that anything's gonna be going out so that people can see? Or not?
I don't know what,
Like a taxpayer can see it, besides calling you if they wish to?
they can always call the auditor for, like you did, for public information request. I guess, I don't know what you're looking for as a comment in the paper. People are on YouTube and any other board member have a concern, comment?
Well, are you gonna put your spreadsheet on there so that people can see that then? You put that on your website page, you know, the breakdown of that, whatever you came up with.
How do you guys want to put that on the website? I mean, I don't know.
Doesn't matter.
All that shows is, budgets, actuals, difference, revenue in, revenue out. I don't care if it goes to the website.
Yeah, if it's on the information, I don't think that's anything wrong with it.
They're just numbers, right?
Right?
Yeah, I don't know. Consensus, I guess, to put the sheets that you presented. Any other discussion on fiscal year 24-25 where the budget results were? All right, moving on, thanks. Thanks, Joan. Committee assignment, anybody have a committee assignment from last week or before?
We had a meeting on the 14th, Northeast Iowa Workforce Development. Basically declining to merge with South Central Mississippi Valley. Sounds like those two districts were meeting aside from Northeast Iowa. So they were pretty much trying to go around our backs. We said no.
Did you say that, if you didn't merge, that the state might just absorb it? That's why you, incentive to merge.
Anything else? Any other committee? Any future agenda items? Are you guys working on the RFP for the air conditioned cooler tower? If so, do we need anything else or just wait for bids to show up on September 5th, I believe. All right. Is there a motion to adjourn, I guess? Is there a second?
Second.
Motion by Travis, second by Isaac to adjourn at 10:14. All in favor, say aye. Aye. Anybody opposed? Motion is carried.
I look at that, I read it.
That's all right.
Sorry about that.
Fun?
Her name is abstaining.